Hello everyone, I am Zhuang Jiang, a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. Grass is really popular, so I spent all day. One day, and a song came and he said, traditional Chinese medicine doctor, my family. Can I take my house? Pull it up, Houttuynia cordata. After that, you can boil it in water and drink it, right? I'm really curious about Houttuynia cordata because, actually, Houttuynia cordata is something we should learn more about Houttuynia cordata. This medicinal herb, Houttuynia cordata, is actually It was not originally a traditional Chinese medicine. Oh, it's a kind of folk herb. The medicine actually became more and more effective later on. Later, traditional Chinese medicine practitioners also incorporate it into our formal Chinese medicine. If the semen is inside, then it will become us. Formal use of traditional Chinese medicine. When did it first appear in traditional Chinese medicine? The key point is actually quite late. It's already late. Previously, it should have been like some practicing physicians. That caution on napping. I often walk around in the market. The prescribed medicine, since it is this the kind of hanging gourd sacrificial ceremony, like you walking around helping others look after things. For this kind of medicine, the medicinal materials are. One of its characteristics is that it is definitely effective. If you want to get better quickly, then, my stomach hurts, I need to eat it too. This kind of chaka sage in the pot offering. The medicines they use all have this kind of. Its characteristic is that the medicine works very quickly. This is also Houttuynia cordata. A very important feature and its effect. It's really good, and the results are immediate. If the shadow is like this, then what exactly happened during the Song and Yuan dynasties? How is it recorded? The herbal classics say that it was hot, and then it got so hot that it suddenly became hot. This Houttuynia cordata is boiled to make this. The person who drinks it suffers from heat exhaustion. In that case, the drug's efficacy is so clearly defined. Really, actually, in our clinical practice. In some intensive care units. They use Houttuynia cordata in it. The effects are really good, that's all. Immediate results. It was mentioned that you should use fish first. After decocting Houttuynia cordata in water and washing with warm water, then applying this to the affected area means. If it grows inside your anus. Some swelling and pain, for example, Many people also suffer from this type of hemorrhoids. You can take the Houttuynia cordata, crush it and then apply it to your face. Above the anus or directly. Boil the Houttuynia cordata into. Then you sit in the water and that will actually. It has anti-inflammatory and analgesic effects. Because Houttuynia cordata is actually good for anti-inflammation and infection of wounds. Or all sorts of things. Everything is fine, except for the case of heat stroke. For example, after you recover from heat stroke, a rapid inflammation then leading to unconsciousness. Actually, that can be treated with Houttuynia cordata. Heat it up and then add more water. That actually helps restore one's own body. This normal loop. Once the fever subsides, you'll wake up. Therefore, the effects of Houttuynia cordata are. It's really quite clear that it's going to be clear by tomorrow. The star period will gradually evolve. It can be converted into various kinds of toxins. You can use it inside your body. It has pus and is infected. It can be used for all fevers. Like lung infections and intestinal infection. We say it's lung congestion or intestinal congestion. We all use it, you would say. People in the past didn't have X-rays, so how could you? You can take an X-ray and they'll find something inside. There is a lung infection or lung disease. There is real itching and pus on my index finger. He saw in the phlegm he spat out. It has a fishy smell, and then the phlegm is yellowish, greenish, and lush. Even if it's bloody, then I feel like what you're spitting out is pus. That's actually a bacterial infection. It will be yellowish inside then. It's green, so it must be a guide. Tissues leading to lungs and index fingers. The phlegm is from being injured. That's why it's bloody. It is a lung infection or. What does traditional Chinese medicine mean by lung congestion? When did your stomach get infected? This then leads to rectal bleeding. These are all very serious. Infections like this causing lung congestion. Intestinal obstruction can actually be. Use Houttuynia cordata for detoxification. The effects of pus are even. The book, Selected Works of Sheep. Some say that Houttuynia cordata can treating snake bites also treat snake venom. However, this needs clarification. It's not like the 100-pace snake is a neurotoxin. There are some non-venomous snakes. The bite cause the wound to fester and become infected. If the inflammation won't get better, then you can do it at the bite site. Treat this inflammatory response. The effects are actually very good. However, by now everyone should still It seems abstract, but in clinical practice, we use Houttuynia cordata. It can suppressing all kinds of toxins. But it's not just that. It can also stop coughing and reduce phlegm, so it can be used for breathing. You are already using antibiotics. You can still use Houttuynia cordata. Use it as your respiratory tract adjunctive therapy drugs, because its medicinal effects are actually very mild, even if you take a large dose. There's not much to it about eating side effects, because like in our clinical practice, the patient then developed inflammation and it really was a very strong fever that lasted a long time. And we won't give them a refund. 1 or 2 ounces, that's how you use it. If you usually pull a little. At most, that's 3 or 2 points. First, boil some water and then boil it. 1500 cc of those 2 or 3. After drinking it, it's actually very, very warm. There will be Houttuynia cordata in the container because it has the effects of clearing heat, ventilating the lungs, and detoxifying. COVID-19 is indeed the cause. Inflammation of the lungs, and then there will be many toxins cause systemic damage. Sexual inflammatory response. Houttuynia cordata is effective at detoxifying. It really is very good. Sometimes it's like there are many cancer patients in the bed. Many cancers can cause. What does the inflammatory reaction resemble in breast cancer? Regional inflammation. It should be localized and there may be swelling and pain. And then everyone feels tired. It feels so good. My body is so warm. At this time, I opened the fishy grass and dandelions like this. Herbal medicine is used to treat human diseases. You'll feel lighter the more you drink. Pine is actually used to detoxify and then restore the body to normal function. This is a very important function. Some people would say, then if you talk like that, I'll go take antibiotics. Why eat this when vegetarian food is fine? Folk herbs are why. If you're going to take Chinese medicine, then it's actually vitamins are really effective. Regarding what he wanted to kill, it's actually really effective against bacteria. The fruit is very good, very convenient and clean. Sometimes its effect is really too strong. The patient's intestines were so strong. My stomach really can't handle it, like some of my. The patient was in the outpatient clinic and then increased vaginal discharge before and after menstruation. After dying, you'll feel your body is very. He felt unwell, so he ate at that time. He usually has antibiotics, acid reflux disease, stomach ulcer. It hurts so much, what should I do? Don't take antibiotics, then. Sometimes, traditional Chinese medicine has some antibacterial properties. The body can be used to help. It looks like Houttuynia cordata at this time. White cat root, it itself is. It has antibacterial and anti-inflammatory effects. This is a relatively mild infection. Because it is not bitter and cold, it is dry. Cold-natured medicines are relatively. It will not cause gastrointestinal discomfort. Comfortable. What about some patients? He has systemic sepsis. He really needs antibiotics. But traditional Chinese medicine has anti. Add it to the antibacterial drug. Once inside, there are actually antibiotics. The scope of use of elements has changed. The body is less likely to be affected. Such a big impact, sometimes. I have some patients in the ward. He was actually also using Western medicine. The effectiveness of antibiotics is. It might have receded slightly, but the feeling. The dying was still going back and forth over there. The X-ray still didn't clear it. It's very clean. Then all medicines like Houttuynia cordata, or some of our traditional Chinese medicines have antibacterial drugs. After adding it in, then add it again. Drugs to boost the immune system. That's how things are. Actually, the whole thing is. The anti-infective effect will be greater. Okay, and actually, Houttuynia cordata has. Its function is that it can have a little benefit. Urine function sometimes affects the lungs. The tissue is edematous. What if the pus can't drain out? Houttuynia cordata has the effect of draining pus. Functional lithology. These purulent substances can help. If you rush to discharge it, then this is not resistance. Vitamins can be replaced. Oh yes. Like the old lady I just mentioned. She only did it for a week. Antibiotics can reduce fever, but S-light still hasn't improved much. Clean, and then the person is sickly, feeling listless and unable to eat. At this point, traditional Chinese medicine is like this. The prescription for Houttuynia cordata is healthy. Give her medicine for her spleen and stomach. 3 days later, the person felt better. Then follows. The lungs were found to be much cleaner. She'll stay another week. Going home actually involves a lot of clinical work. That's how it is in many cases. Elderly people with weakened immune systems. These have antibacterial and pus draining properties. Chinese medicine then helps with drug absorption. The effect of antibiotics and then help. Many times she doesn't need to answer. The treatment course is so long, then they have complementary effects. Next, I will answer the audience's questions about taking. What are the contraindications of Houttuynia cordata? I was just talking about the ward. Ah, even though her body is so weak. I'll still give her 1 or 2 ounces even if she's weak. The more she drinks, the better her health becomes. If you just know how to match. In that case, she wouldn't actually be very poisonous. My body was really very cold, and then. It's easy to eat a little bit of it. If you get diarrhea from food, then It's best to eat this kind of thing before. It's better to consult a traditional Chinese medicine doctor. People who have had surgery can drink fishy drinks. Are herbal teas good for your health? Actually, many people. He felt unwell, so he drank a little and it helped. Fire-infused herbal tea for his body. On the contrary, I feel more comfortable because of the fish. However, I still suggest that if you are. I need to take traditional Chinese medicine after surgery. The teacher is better because he is more likely to get diarrhea. Can you drink fishy drinks if you have indigestion? Herbs aren't suitable for drinking alone. If you are prone to diarrhea, this. As for Houttuynia cordata, I usually. If you're not sure, then. It's better to come and ask us. In this episode, we're talking about fishy smells. Grass is a very commonly used plant. Folk herbs, and it's not just. It's just folk herbal medicine that's been trending lately. The COVID-19 pandemic is in severe condition. We are also very knowledgeable in this field of disease. I often use it because its therapeutic effects are really good. You must consult a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner beforehand. Thank you for watching the Eye Zhan Han. See you next time, doctor.